Hello everyone, how you guys doing today? So today I wanted to talk about the importance of shadow work, especially when it comes to doing or going into spirituality and doing spiritual things or energetic work or any of that type of thing. Because I've just been being called to do this video because I noticed that there's a big surge in popularity of spirituality, especially with the new age stuff. And I've noticed that a lot of people haven't done the shadow work. So they're walking into this power, but they're not dealing with their demons or dealing with their shadow aspects of themselves, the parts of themselves that they suppress, the side of themselves that they lie to themselves about, because humans do have a tendency to look outward when it comes to certain situations, and they like to point blame instead of going within to see what they did to cause this issue to happen, or what part do they play in the situations that they are in life or whatever. So what ends up happening is when you don't do the shadow work and you step into spirituality and step into new age concepts, you develop what's called a spiritual ego. And that's kind of like a disease or something, like a spiritual disease, because you, instead of being compassionate towards people, understanding, having unconditional love towards people, and just accepting people for who they are and seeing people as all connected and as all as one, you start to develop this superiority complex, or you develop this greater than thou, or I'm better than you because I'm spiritually inclined or something like that. And you kind of like treat people, you develop like a toxic spirituality or whatever. That's what I kind of see it as, toxic spirituality, where in the end you end up hurting people more than helping people, and you end up becoming just a toxic person that you just don't want to be around, because you develop this since you didn't deal with your traumas, you project it even in spirituality. And even if you're not a spiritual person, just doing shadow work and going within to find out who you are on the dark side, what your dark side is, what your demons are, you just overall become a better person in general. And sorry for all the noise outside, by the way. But yeah, if you hear it. So you just in general just become a more emotionally mature person. And even if you're not, so it's good to do shadow work in general, even if you're not into spiritual stuff. But for the spiritual community specifically, shadow work is very important, because like I said, that spiritual ego will develop. Then you start projecting your traumas onto people, and instead of helping people, you're hurting people. And then even so, some people start using whatever they learned to hurt people instead, because like some people use witchcraft to harm people. Some people use not even just that, like they may not become a witch, they may just use spirituality to hurt people instead, or they'll be easily used to spit out or spew out false doctrines or misleading doctrines to people, and then they become spiritual leaders in the community, and then they're leading the people astray instead of helping people look within to find their personal truth, to see what their mission is, or why God has sent them here, or whatever you believe in, whether it's the universe, whatever, why you're here, and how you can use that to help other people, because that's kind of like being of service to others. So what I'm going to talk about is ways that you can do shadow work based on my experience, because in a previous video, I'll link it in the description, I talked about my spiritual awakening. And what ended up happening was, I went through a spiritual awakening. It was a heart chakra awakening that was, I apparently was on a twin flame journey that I didn't even know about. And I didn't figure it out until the beginning of this year, once I started to have these issues towards a person that was in my past that I kind of thought was kind of like, we were kind of just like moved on and done. Like, that was my mindset. He's happy, I'm happy. So I figured, we were just in our own lives or whatever. But then came just this pain in the heart chakra area that I just could not understand. And then the obsessive thoughts about him out of nowhere, out of the blue. and then it was affecting like relationships that I was currently in. I was like, what's going on, you know? So I there's more on that video. If you want to know more about that, the video is there. But you know, I went into a dark night of the soul. I was having a lot of upheavals of past trauma that I thought was already resolved, or I didn't even know was still a problem. And it was traumas that I did know was you know, that I needed to deal with. I just kind of buried them. So it was a lot of things that were buried that kept surfacing. So when I went to my spiritual awakening, I didn't really have a choice but to deal with those, because it was either deal with my shadow or be haunted by them. So what ended up happening was I was online looking up ways to like stop thinking about my twin flame web, because it was becoming like a burden in my life. So what ended up happening is I stumbled upon this thing called the mirror technique. And so what it is just to help you with your twin flame thing. And I'll link the lady's channel in the description where I got this technique from, because I don't want any type of people like, oh, that's my idea, even though we're all in here to help each other. But I still give the credit anyway. But basically, when I was doing the mirror technique, I started to realize that I can use this technique for shadow work to deal with my traumas, because it was helping me with that. So what that is, one way to deal with your shadow is because at the end of the day, your shadow self just wants to be acknowledged. We humans have a tendency to bury our trauma, lie to ourselves about who we are instead of looking at ourselves. And a lot of times, I'm not even gonna lie, we humans hate ourselves sometimes. And you might not think like, oh, I don't hate myself, but if you're one of those type of people who don't like being alone, like, it's because it's something about yourself that you don't like. And when you're alone, you're forced to face yourself. You're forced to see yourself. You're forced to deal with yourself. And a lot of people don't like what they see. They don't like that dark side, and a lot of people don't even like to acknowledge it. Like, you might say that, oh, a person is a liar. Oh, I'm not a liar. I'm not. But they clearly are, you know, and not just with being a liar, just with anything. Like, whatever you strongly deny, whatever triggers you, that's your dark side coming out. So what I did was, here's how the mirror technique works. So what you do is put your hand over your chest, left or right hand. I don't really think it matters. I use my left hand. I don't know. I don't even think I pay attention, but I try to consciously use my left hand. But, you know, I might use my right hand sometimes. So you close your eyes and then you talk to yourself. You say, self, what is it about myself that makes me not love myself? And we all have things about ourselves that we don't like. So when you say that, and when you do that, you get into a meditative state and you do that, you'll start to notice memory surfing, or even visions for some people who, you know, who have vivid imaginations. You'll have like these images pop up and memories start surfacing. So with the mirror technique, what surfaces the fastest is the things that are eager to be healed, the things inside of you that just wants to be healed. Whether it's like inner child wounds, traumas from even adulthood or teenage, or something that happened to you in your life that has a profound effect on you now in your current life, and even past life stuff. Now, those are a bit harder or take a bit more to deal with. The mirror technique deals with surface things that are ready to be healed, and things that are easy to dig into. So I noticed when I first did the mirror technique, things just surface. So after that happens, you deal with each memory one at a time. And after you talk to yourself with your eyes closed, you fixate on a memory that pops up. And it's probably a memory that you're uncomfortable with, a memory that really hurt you in the past. And what you do is you visualize your self right now, your current self. You visualize yourself going back into that time and giving yourself that love that you always wanted. So with that is, you visualize yourself going back into that time and giving yourself that love. So let's say it was a time when you were a kid, something really bad happened to you. You stop and you fixate on that memory, and you go to that person, that child version of yourself, how you are now, and giving that person a hug, talking to that person, telling that person something, telling your younger self what you wanted to hear at that time that you didn't hear. Like, you give yourself love. It's a self-love technique that helps you heal. And it worked for me, so I just want to share it because it might work for you. So it basically has you imagining yourself going back to those times, and it may be painful, but you have to give yourself love. Say loving words to yourself. Tell yourself what you wanted to hear or what you wish you had. Be a shoulder to lean on for yourself in that time. And some of those things, once you do it one time, then it's healed, and then you start noticing that you no longer get triggered by things that you used to get triggered from, because that's what your shadow self does. When you don't acknowledge it, you notice that you get triggered by things. So like, if you see a situation happen or somebody says something to you and you get triggered and upset, angry, you react, that's your shadow side coming out. And that's your shadow side wanting to be, that's a pain within you that you have that you might not even notice. Also too, when you notice that you get excessively angry about a certain topic, like let's say, oh, I really hate judgmental people, and don't get me wrong, no one likes judgmental people, but when you find that you are overreacting about that, you might be self-projecting. So you may have some judgmental tendencies yourself. And then because we humans have a tendency to hate ourselves and reject these shadow aspects of ourselves, then we project it onto people. So that's one way to recognize what it is that you need to heal, is recognizing what triggers you and recognize what you have extreme like dislike towards or hatred towards, because it may be something within you, especially if let's say there's aspects of your mother that you hate or aspects of your father that you hate, like certain characteristics. That means that those characteristics may very well be in you, and so that's why you have to discover it. Just may come out in different ways. So in your dad or your mother, it comes out this way, but within you, it comes out another way. You just have to recognize that. That's how you're able to recognize what it is that you need to heal, especially if you don't know right away, right off the bat. I would say write it down. And yeah, sorry, those are fireworks. 4th of July, people are still popping them for some strange reason. But anyway, that's how you can try to figure out what it is that you need to heal if you don't know yet. So that's one thing that I do, but sometimes things are a little stubborn, so you might have to do a little bit more talking. So let's say you go, okay, let's say you know that you have an extreme anxiety issue or something. So you go, self, what is it that causes you so much anxiety? Where did it stem from? Then you may have a memory pop up of something really traumatic that happened to you that triggered your anxiety issue. Now that it may be a past life thing, but it may have been something in this lifetime. So in that case, you talk to that and try to dig deeper, especially if an origin doesn't pinpoint right away. Instead, it's just things that cause your anxiety to pop up, but then you have to dig a little deeper until you finally get to that one thing that caused it. And then that's when you give that part of yourself love, and that's when you talk to that part of yourself from that situation, using the mirror technique and using a visualization technique. So some things are a little bit more stubborn, and the mirror technique may not work for certain things. It just all depends on you and how you use it. But for some people, things are like just don't surface. Some of your traumas are a little stubborn and they won't surface just because you ask it to. You get what I mean? So with those, those will take a little longer to heal. And even with the mirror technique, sometimes you may have to do it more than once to get the full heal. Other times, doing it once is enough. But, it just all depends on how deep the trauma is. But with situations that don't come up during using the mirror technique, you have to wait until you're in that situation, and then you realize you're getting triggered. And then what you do is, while you're in that emotional state, that's your dark side coming out, you talk to it right then and there. But you have to be self-aware. You have to be consciously realize, oh, hey, hold on, wait a minute, I'm overreacting right here. What is wrong? Why am I being triggered? Then that's when you talk to it, and that's when you do the mirror technique, because now that side of yourself has surfaced. He was like, okay, I caught you, and like, now that you're surfaced, let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Let me love you. You love that side of yourself. Then once you, over time, you'll start noticing that you don't get triggered as much. You're calm now. Like, people may come to you in certain situations, might pop up, and you realize that you don't react to it. Because when you deal with your shadow, you can easily deal with other people's shadows. Once you learn what your dark side is, your shadow side is, what your demons are, you can easily deal with other people's demons in a more emotionally mature way. You won't react to people as much as you used to. And so that's the whole point, really. And then also too, some people need to do an act. So instead of like the mirror technique, they might not have a great imagination. So what you can do in a situation like that is that you can write it down. Whatever happened to you, write it down and then burn it. Physically burn it in a safe place that's non-hazardous, of course. And then after that, if you don't want to do that, you can visualize yourself burning it, just releasing it, and that can help too. So that's kind of what I'm saying as far as shadow work. It just helps you overall become humble, see everyone as in a compassionate way instead of a judgmental way. It just overall has your energy to be, you're not a toxic spiritual person. You're a spiritual person that actually can heal people because you're not projecting your trauma onto people. And that's why it's so important to do it. And so with other things, you might have to do Reiki, healings, or you may have to go a little deeper, pray, whatever it is, your spirit, meditate, whatever it is that you do, because some things are past life oriented. You could use a violet flame, look into that too, because that can help you burn karma, burn out past life trauma, things that are just a little bit more stubborn, you know. So that's basically how I do it, and I just want to do that for you because we're all connected and we shouldn't really be looking at each other as greater than thou, judging each other or anything like that, because we all have our own flaws, we all have our own issues. And so, you know, we just have to be of help and of service to other people. And so now that everyone's spiritually awakening, the world is changing, we have to collectively grow. We have to collectively become more spiritual and more helpful towards each other and not really bringing each other down. So that's why I say that shadow work is important. Healing your inner child, that's what shadow work is. Healing your inner child, healing your traumas, healing your past life trauma, and even clearing your karma, just doing shadow work. I always say become like the moon, because the moon has a dark side that we don't see and a light side. And I do feel like our shadow side, some parts of our shadow side is important. So when you're elevating and raising your vibration and getting to know your higher self, because your higher self and your shadow self want the same thing from you, they just go about it in different ways. And your shadow self just really just wants it to be acknowledged and loved, and that's really it. Then when you figure out the things that you don't need and the things that you do need, because I do feel like sometimes we have to tap into our shadow side for certain situations, but that doesn't mean belittle people and hurt people. It's just dealing with things in a more direct, honest way, because your higher self likes to deal with things in a loving, compassionate, unconditional loving way, which is good. That's fine. That's actually how we're supposed to. But I do feel like in certain situations our shadow side has to come out, but as long as we deal with it, our shadow side becomes our ascendant shadow, and then it helps you with your higher self, works with your higher self, and then you end up just having a good balance between your dark and your light, and they both work for your better good. All you need to do really is to just integrate that side with your higher self and become like the moon. And that's kind of like the basis of my channel. So yep, I say the basis of my channel is to become like the moon. So anyways, I hope this helped you. I'm sorry if it's a little dark, because I know it's dark in here. I should have turned on the light. But anyways, yeah. So I hope this video helped you guys. And, yep, have a good one.